Adam Back, thank you very much for joining us. It's an absolute pleasure to have you here.
Sure, happy to be here.
You talked there about understanding Bitcoin. Have you noticed a shift in the last few years, especially in what you've been doing with more people kind of getting it on a lower level?
Yeah, I think Bitcoin has got many properties, so it's interesting to different people for different reasons, but it is something you can understand at a sort of simple level, so you can get into it quickly, but there are a lot of levels of understanding or new ideas that it exposes people to. So I think it does take time to fully appreciate or learn new things about what's interesting, so permissionless use, the asset protection, sensitive resistance, and for many people it's their first exposure to trading perhaps, or they learn more things about money. People tend to take money for granted and then they learn things more about monetary economics and about inflation and gold and why people might own gold as a form of value preservation for the long term. So it's, I think sort of the ecosystem is on a learning exercise together and learning more about what's interesting about Bitcoin for the world.
I did want to talk to you a little bit about technology and moving forward, especially in the space, things such as like quantum computing, for example, and how do you think that will really shift the crypto space?
I think that's still some decades away. People don't know exactly how far away, but I think it's not, technologically threatening to the security of Bitcoin for any, short-term foreseeable risk. And there are already known techniques, sort of the so-called post-quantum computer, for using different algorithms that still continue to operate in a quantum computing world. So, for example, we've seen with the current work on the introduction of the Schnorr signature that Bitcoin is algorithm agile and can add new features and new algorithms. So it wouldn't be far-fetched to imagine that, maybe in 5 years there might be an initiative to introduce a post-quantum secure signature option for people who want to do very long-term cold storage or something like that. But at the moment it's kind of premature to take that work because the post-quantum cryptography is an active area of research, and you generally don't want to use very new cryptography until it's got a lot more review on it. And the current crop of established post-quantum secure signature algorithms are quite space inefficient. So there aren't good choices at the moment, but it's an active area of research. So, going forward at some point, it may make sense defensively to have an option to use it. I would say that would be like at least 5 years out, and I don't foresee any general quantum computing threat to the security of the Bitcoin algorithms today.
So if that's a bit far off, what's sort of come out, especially you guys at Blockstream, is there anything that's closer that you're excited about maybe getting your hands on very soon, or that you just have got your hands on recently?
So we're involved in many different areas of the Bitcoin ecosystem. So we do things on Lightning. So our Lightning team is working on L2 and the protocol extensions for that, which is a kind of more convenient and reliable variant of Lightning that benefits from the Schnorr signatures that I mentioned. It makes things more private and has better sort of ways to close the channel when you want to take funds out of it. Something else that we have been working on for some time and have talked about, but have now released a developer preview release for, is Simplicity. It's a general smart contracting framework for. It was initially conceived in the context of Bitcoin, but we've been working on integrating it into Liquid, which is a sidechain of Bitcoin, and that gives people a way to see what the future would look like. So it's kind of early access to technology for developers right now, but next year that will go into Liquid. And the hope is that in the longer term, maybe a few years' time, there would be interest to add Simplicity smart contracting to Bitcoin itself. And I think smart contracting in cryptocurrencies has ended up with a bad name because of the sort of failures in security of some of the other systems. But Simplicity is designed for a security-first approach. It's using formal proof systems, so it's a very specific design, and it's designed for the Bitcoin sort of coin-oriented model. So Bitcoin has a UTXO model where when you spend a coin, the contract is only in the scope of the coin. So that makes a very simple, constrained context to make a decision in. So simplicity is good for security, basically. So we're pretty interested to see that, get become available in Liquid, and maybe for Bitcoin engineers and people running businesses using Bitcoin to think about what they could do with it further out. And to give an example, if simplicity were available in Bitcoin today, you wouldn't need a soft fork to implement Schnorr signatures. You could just do them and do them in an efficient way without needing a soft fork for a new feature. So it effectively makes Bitcoin or the network that uses it, like a Liquid sidechain, sort of much more self-extensible and sort of more solidifies or makes permanent the current technology level, so that you don't have as much need to introduce changes just to get additional functionality or additional flexibility to adapt. For example, with Lightning, it relied on a couple of features originally, and it's looking for another feature now to enable L2, which is the SIG hash no input. So, again, with simplicity, if that was available, we wouldn't need the SIG hash no input soft fork, because you can do that generically, that class of things generically within Simplicity's programming model. So it's kind of a future-proofing, self-extensibility, but still with very high sort of security proofs about the smart contract.
Amazing. Adam, thank you so much for speaking with us. It's been a real pleasure.
Sure,
And
thank you.
I hope you enjoy the rest of the conference.
Thanks.